So I apologize for that long last video, but we have a quick exercise for you to see if those 4 good sampling methods, I'll write them up here to remind us, are simple random sample, stratified sample, cluster sample, and systematic sample are in our brains, because this is a favorite type of test question. Every single exam one, I have a question asking what type of sampling design is being done. And usually it's a question like this where I sort of describe what happened and then I ask you to identify which one was done. And like I said, students have the hardest time telling between stratified and cluster. So I recommend you pause the video, try out your answers for this, and then see if you got them right. So coming back from the pause, A says we're going to pick every 20th name. That 20th tells us we're dealing us with that systematic, right? Simple random sampling with a system. You're going to hope that I put this one on the exam because I think it's the easiest to spot. Boom. B is where we finally have to make our decision. We can see we're separating the students by class. So we have a grouping mechanism. But we know both stratified and cluster use grouping. Once we separate the students by class, we pick a simple random sample of size 25 from each of the 4 groups. So again, the difference between stratified and clustered, is that in stratified, oh my God, in stratified, we're going to be still sampling people, and in cluster, we're going to be sampling the groups themselves. So our random sample, and another distraction here is a lot of students will see this simple random sample, and they'll want this to be an SRS. But we are doing, there's an SRS at the heart of both the stratified and the cluster. So don't let that wording get you thrown off. We still have our groups. And so in this case, the sample is going to be of people, right? And we do it from the groups. And you can actually see this from each, which is a pat on the back. So this should have been stratified. If you chose cluster, remember people versus groups. And actually, let's just go ahead and look down at D. So separate the students by homeroom assigned. So again, we have a grouping. They're separating in both of these questions, right? Each homeroom has 20. Pick a random sample. So we still see a random sample, but a random sample this time is of the 4 homerooms. Homerooms are the groups themselves. So this is a cluster sample. And then you get a pat on the back here if a homeroom is selected, all the students. So the from each is a good pat on the back for stratified, and all is a good pat on the back for cluster. And then the last question, the one I did not get to, using a random number table, 100 names are chosen from the list. That's boring as heck. It's an SRS. There's nothing to do with grouping. There's no 20th. This is it.